The night my brother bought a house with my money, his wife told me to stop acting like I owned the place. She said it quietly, right into my ear, like a secret between us. The kind of secret that's meant to shrink you. I was standing in the kitchen of a 4-bedroom colonial in Greenfield, Ohio. A house that existed because 18 months ago I had walked into a credit union and signed my name on a loan I didn't need for a life I wasn't living. And she leaned in close, her perfume too sweet, her voice too soft, and said, "You should really let Marcus and me host without commentary. It's our home, not yours." I smiled. I said, "Of course." Then I put down my glass, said goodbye to exactly nobody, and drove 40 minutes home in the dark. That night, I made one phone call. And 3 weeks later, they lost the house. I should tell you who I am first, because none of this makes sense without that. My name is Ivy. I'm 31 years old. I work as a registered nurse at a regional hospital outside Columbus. 12-hour shifts, 3 or 4 days a week, the kind of schedule that sounds flexible until you're living inside it. I've been doing this for 7 years. I started saving money seriously when I was 24 because I grew up watching my parents stress about every bill that came through the door, and I told myself I would never feel that way. I don't own much. I rent a 1-bedroom apartment that I actually like. I have a used car that runs fine. I cook most of my meals at home, and I take one real vacation a year. That's the life I built, quietly, on purpose. My brother's name is Derek. He's 3 years older than me, which means he was always supposed to be further ahead, but life didn't quite work out that way for him. He's not a bad person. I want to be clear about that, because this story isn't about hating him. Derek is generous when he has something to give, funny in a way that fills a room, and genuinely warm with people he loves. But Derek has always had a gap between what he wants and what he's willing to do to get it. And for most of his adult life, that gap was something our family quietly filled. He married Loretta 4 years ago. She's pretty and confident and has opinions about everything: how a house should look, how a party should be run, how Derek's family should behave in her presence. I tried to like her. I did like her. For a while, I thought we could be the kind of sisters-in-law who texted each other memes and complained about the same things. But Loretta has a way of drawing a circle around herself and Derek and making everyone else feel like they're visiting, even at Christmas dinner, even at your own parents' table. They've been renting an apartment in Dayton for 2 years when Derek called me one Sunday afternoon and said they were ready to buy. "That's great," I said. "What are you pre-approved for?" Silence. "Derek, that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about." Here is what he explained, carefully, over the next 20 minutes. Their credit wasn't where it needed to be. Loretta had some medical debt from before they got married. Derek had a car loan that had gone 30 days late twice in 1 year. A conventional lender wouldn't touch them at the rate they wanted. But if someone with strong credit, someone like me, co-signed the mortgage, they could get into the house they'd been looking at. A 4-bedroom colonial with a finished basement in Greenfield, listed at $287,000. "I wouldn't ask if we weren't serious," he said. "We're going to refinance in 2 years and get your name off. You won't even feel it." I asked questions. I asked a lot of questions. I asked about their savings, their monthly expenses, whether they had an emergency fund, what would happen if one of them lost a job. Derek answered everything patiently, and I could tell he'd prepared. He'd thought about what I'd ask. He'd done his homework. That meant something to me. I said I'd think about it. I called my dad. He said it would mean the world to your brother. I called my mom. She said, "You know Derek would do the same for you." Neither of them told me it was a good financial decision. They just reminded me that it was family. I said yes. I want you to understand what co-signing a mortgage actually means in the United States, because a lot of people don't. You are not a backup. You are not someone they call if things go sideways. You are on the loan. That debt appears on your credit report as your own. If they miss a payment, it hits your credit. If they default, the lender can come after you, your wages, your bank account, your own financial future, before they even try to sell the house. I knew all of this. I'm a detail-oriented person. I read the documents. I signed anyway, because it was family. For the first year, things were fine. Derek sent me a text on the 1st of every month that just said payments in, and I would respond with a thumbs up, and that was our system. I came to their place for Thanksgiving that first year. Loretta made a beautiful spread, the house smelled like cinnamon and roasting meat, and I sat at a table that technically had my name on the paperwork and felt nothing but warmth. I thought, this is what it's for. This is why you do hard things for people you love. Then the second year started. Derek got laid off in February. His company, a mid-sized logistics firm, went through a restructuring and cut his whole department. He found part-time work within a few weeks, but it was about half his previous salary. He called me when it happened, voice tight, and said, "We're going to be fine, Ivy. We've got savings. Don't stress." I told him I wasn't stressed, that I was there if he needed anything, and I meant it. Loretta did not call me. By April, I noticed the mortgage statement looked different when I checked my credit monitoring app. The payment had come through late 4 days, and it had dinged my score by 11 points. I texted Derek. He apologized, said it was a bank transfer issue, wouldn't happen again. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. In June, I got a letter in the mail from the lender. It was addressed to me as a co-borrower. It outlined that the account had been 30 days late in May and the implications for both parties on the loan. I sat on my kitchen floor and read it twice. I called Derek. He didn't answer. I called Loretta. She answered on the second ring. "We've been meaning to call you," she said. "Not I'm sorry. Not I know this affects you. We've been meaning to call you, like I was a vendor they'd been putting off." I asked what was happening. She explained, measured, almost bored, that they'd had some unexpected expenses. Derek's car needed a new transmission. The basement had a small water issue that needed professional remediation. They'd had to make choices about what to pay first. I asked why they hadn't told me before the payment was missed. She said, "We didn't want to worry you." What she meant was, they didn't think they owed me an explanation. I stayed calm on the phone. I asked when they expected to be current. She said, "End of July." I said, "Okay, thank you for letting me know," and I hung up. Then I sat very still for a while, the kind of still where you're not really resting, but your body just doesn't know what to do with itself yet. They caught up by end of July. August was on time. September too. I started to breathe again. Then came the housewarming party. They'd moved in over a year ago, but Loretta had been planning a proper housewarming for months. She had opinions about timing, about the garden not being done, about waiting until the basement was fully furnished. In October, the invitations went out. A Saturday evening in mid-November, 30-some guests, catered appetizers, a bartender, the works. My mother called to make sure I was going. Of course, I said. I drove the 40 minutes. I brought a gift, a nice one. A stout Dutch oven I'd seen Loretta pin on Pinterest months ago, wrapped carefully. I wore a dress I liked. I was ready to have a good time. The house looked beautiful. Loretta had taste. I'll give her that. Warm lighting, fall arrangements, candles on every surface. People were laughing and the bar was busy, and Derek found me near the front door and hugged me and looked genuinely happy. For the first hour, it was fine. It was good, even. And then I was in the kitchen, refilling my water glass when Loretta's mother started complimenting the house, the flow of it, the finishes, the smart use of the layout, and I said casually, "The way you do when you're comfortable." The bones were really what sold me when I first saw the listing. Just that, casual. True. Loretta appeared at my elbow almost immediately. She waited until her mother had drifted toward the living room. Then she turned to me and she said, very quietly, "Can I ask you to not make comments like that? This is our home. Guests don't need to know about the financing. It makes things awkward." I looked at her. "I was just saying I thought the house had good bones. You said it sold you, like you're the owner." Her voice was light, conversational, like we were discussing the weather. "I know you're on the paperwork, Ivy, but you don't live here. You should probably let us host without inserting yourself." I had been on a mortgage for 18 months. I had signed my name to nearly $290,000 of debt for these people. I had watched my credit score absorb their late payment. I had received a formal lender notice at my apartment because of choices they made without telling me. And I was being told at a party celebrating a house that would not exist without me that I was inserting myself. I smiled. The kind of smile that is not a smile at all. "You're right," I said. "Enjoy your party." I found my coat. I said goodbye to Derek, who was across the room and waved from a distance. I did not say goodbye to Loretta. I drove home and I was very, very quiet the whole way there, which is how I am when something has finally settled. Not anger. Clarity. I have a coworker named Simone who has been in banking. She's the kind of person I trust completely. No drama, no gossip, just someone who tells you the truth. I texted her that night, "Can we talk this week?" Mortgage question. We had coffee Monday morning before our shift. I laid out the situation. She listened without interrupting, which is one of the things I love about her. When I finished, she set down her cup and said, "You know you have options, right?" I knew, but I wanted her to say it. When you are a co-signer on a mortgage in the United States, getting your name removed is not simple, but it is possible. The primary path is a refinance. The borrowers apply for a new loan in their own names only. If they qualify, the original loan is paid off. The co-signer is released. The catch is that they have to qualify on their own. With Derek's recent layoff history, Loretta's existing debt, and the 2 credit dings on the account over the past year, that was going to be a challenge. Simone also told me something I hadn't fully considered. Lenders typically allow a co-signer to request a review if they have documented concerns about the loan's risk. It doesn't guarantee release, but it opens a conversation. And in some cases, it triggers the lender's own assessment process. What would that process look like? I asked. She told me. I went home that evening and I sat at my kitchen table for a long time. I thought about Derek, who had called me on a Sunday afternoon and asked carefully. I thought about Loretta, who had leaned into my ear at her housewarming party and told me to stop inserting myself. I thought about the late payment letter I'd received at my apartment. I thought about 12-hour shifts and the savings account I'd built dollar by dollar. And I thought, I am 31 years old, and my name is on a debt that is not mine, for a house I was told I have no place in, being managed by someone who does not respect me enough to call before a payment is missed. I opened my laptop. I drafted a formal letter to the lender requesting a co-signer release review, citing the documented late payments, the formal notice I had received, and my desire to be removed from the obligation. I also noted that I was not able to confirm the borrower's current financial stability, and that I had concerns about the ongoing risk to my own credit profile. I had Simone look it over Tuesday morning. She suggested 2 small changes. I made them. I mailed it Wednesday. I did not tell Derek. I know that might be the part you question. I've questioned it myself. But here is what I kept coming back to. I had spent 18 months on that loan without a single proactive update from them about their finances. Not when Derek got laid off. Not when the payments started getting tight. Not before the account went late. Every piece of information I got, I had to pull. I had carried their risk in silence, and I decided I could act in that same silence while I figured out what was possible. The lender responded faster than I expected. Within 10 days, I received a letter acknowledging my request and informing me that a review had been initiated. Part of that process, they explained, included contacting the primary borrowers to discuss the status of the loan and their options going forward. That was the moment I realized the timeline was out of my hands. Derek called me on a Thursday evening, 3 weeks after I'd mailed the letter. I saw his name on my phone and I let it ring twice before I picked up. "Did you contact the lender?" he asked. "No hello?" "Yes," I said. A pause. "Why didn't you tell me? Did you tell me before the payment went late in May?" I asked. Calm, not cold, just honest. He didn't have an answer for that. I told him I wanted my name off the loan. I told him I had been on it for 18 months, and I had received a formal default notice at my home address, and I had never, not once, had a proactive conversation from him or Loretta about the state of their finances. I told him what Loretta had said to me at the party. I told him all of it, quietly, without raising my voice. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Ivy, if we can't refinance right now, we could lose the house." "I know," I said. "You know what that means for us." "I do." "So you're willing to let that means for us?" "I do." "So you're willing to let that happen?" I took a breath. "Derek, I've been willing to do a lot of things. I signed a mortgage I didn't need. I absorbed a credit hit. I got a lender notice in the mail like I was delinquent on my own debt. And then I came to your party, and your wife told me I was inserting myself into a home that has my name on the paperwork. What I'm not willing to do is stay on a loan where I have no information, no respect, and no recourse." He didn't say anything. "If you can refinance and get my name off, I will make that as easy as possible," I said. I'll respond to anything the lender needs from me same day. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect myself." He hung up. I sat with the silence for a while. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like the moment after you finally put something heavy down. That specific ache in your hands when you realize how long you've been carrying it. The next few weeks were uncomfortable in the way that doing the right thing for yourself sometimes is. My mother called twice, both times clearly prompted by Derek, her voice careful and sad. I told her I loved her and I explained my position clearly, and I did not apologize. My dad left a voicemail that said simply, "I hope you two can work this out," and I appreciated that he didn't take sides. Loretta texted me once. It said, "I think we got off on the wrong foot at the party. Can we talk?" I responded, "I think we should let Derek and the lender work through the review process first. I'm happy to connect after that." She did not respond. Derek and Loretta applied for a refinance. I knew because the lender's review process had moved into a formal phase and I received status updates as a co-borrower. Their application came back the first time with conditions. They needed additional documentation of Derek's current income, proof of employment stability, and a letter explaining the late payment history. It took 6 weeks and 2 rounds of back and forth before the underwriter cleared them. During that time, I slept better than I had in months. The refinance closed on a Thursday in late January. I received a formal release document by certified mail. My name was off the loan. I sat at my kitchen table and read it twice, the same way I'd read that default notice. But this time, the feeling was entirely different. I was nobody's cosigner. I was nobody's financial cushion. I was just me in my apartment with my own credit and my own life, which I had built and which was mine. I texted Derek that evening, just 3 words, "Congratulations on the refi." He responded an hour later, "Thanks." That was it. And honestly, that was fine. I've had a lot of time to think about what this experience was really about, and I don't think it was about Loretta's comment at the party. That was just the moment I finally heard clearly what had been true for a long time, that my help was assumed, but my presence was conditional, that being useful to people doesn't mean they'll treat you like you matter, that the word family gets used a lot as a reason to give things, and not very often as a reason to give things back. I don't hate my brother. I had dinner with my parents last month, and Derek was there, and we talked the way we always talk. Not deeply, but warmly, the way siblings do when they've known each other so long that the relationship exists in shorthand. Loretta wasn't there. I don't know what's going on in their marriage, and I'm not curious enough to ask. What I know is this. I work hard. I made choices for a long time that prioritized other people's stability over my own. And when I finally made a choice for myself, a legal, reasonable, fully documented choice that any financial advisor would have told me to make months earlier, I was treated like I'd done something cruel. I didn't. I just stopped inserting myself. If you're watching this and you've co-signed something for someone, I want to say this to you directly. You have rights. You have legal options. Being family does not mean being liable. And if the people you signed for have made you feel small for even thinking about protecting yourself, that is not love. That is leverage. There is a difference, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. I'm 31. I have a credit score I'm proud of again. I have a savings account that belongs entirely to me. I have a life I built on 12-hour shifts and deliberate choices, and nobody's name is on it but mine. That feels like enough. That feels, actually, like everything. I've thought about what I would tell someone who's sitting where I was sitting, not the night of the party, but the 18 months before it. The months where I told myself that being useful was the same as being valued. That signing my name to someone else's future was an act of love, and not just an act of availability. I was wrong about that, and I think a lot of people are wrong about it too, and nobody really says so out loud. Here's what I've come to understand. The way people treat your help will always tell you more than the way they ask for it. Derek asked carefully. He prepared. He answered every question I had. That's how I knew he understood what he was asking. But Loretta, the way she managed the late payment, the way she handled the default notice, the way she whispered into my ear at that party, that told me everything about how they understood my role in their lives. Not a person, a function. And once a function has been used, it doesn't get to have opinions about the house. What I did wasn't ruthless. I want to be clear about that, because I think people will read the outcome. They had to scramble to refinance. They spent 6 stressful weeks getting paperwork together, and assume I wanted them to suffer. I didn't. I wanted my name off a loan that was costing me sleep and credit points and self-respect. Those are not small things. Those are the building blocks of a stable life, and I had spent a long time letting them erode quietly because I thought that's what family required. It doesn't. That's the thing nobody says at the dinner table. Family is not a debt you were born into. Love is not collateral. You can care about someone deeply and still decide that a specific arrangement is no longer something you can sustain. Ivy can love Derek and also need her name off that mortgage. Both things are true at the same time, and holding both doesn't make you cold. It makes you honest. I think about the version of me that didn't mail that letter. She's still on that loan. She's still getting credit monitoring alerts and checking her phone on the first of every month and absorbing the low-grade anxiety of being financially bound to people who have made it clear she's an inconvenience. That version of me is still trying to earn her place at a table she helped build. I don't want to be her. The harder thing, the thing I'm still sitting with, is that protecting yourself sometimes looks, from the outside, like you're the one causing harm. Derek told me I was willing to let them lose the house. And technically, yes, I was. Because the alternative was staying in a position that was slowly costing me everything while being told, quietly and consistently, that I didn't matter enough to be kept informed. That's not a trade I was willing to make anymore. Clarity about your own worth isn't cruelty. It's just finally being honest, with yourself first, and then with everyone else. I'm not your bank. I'm not your backup plan. I'm a person. And the moment I acted like one, everything changed.